And we're live, finally, on a Monday night, following Monday Night Raw. A little bit of a rough start here to tonight's stream. Some technical difficulties. I appreciate you guys bearing with us as we continue to figure out how to stream properly here on YouTube. Obviously, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., welcoming you back to another edition of the J Area Wrestling Show following Monday Night Raw. A little bit of a late start here for the stream, but nonetheless, we're going to carry on and persist. If you're just joining us on tonight's stream, I appreciate you for number one, joining us here on another edition of the live stream, as well as choosing to spend your time here hanging out with us, talking professional wrestling. We are just days out. What is it? 5 days out from WrestlePalooza, which is being, promoted as one of the bigger shows in the WWE as of right now. Obviously, it's because of the huge ESPN deal, allowing the premium live events for the WWE's main roster to be broadcast across the ESPN direct-to-consumer streaming service. That's a mouthful right there in itself. But a lot of the matches on the card were addressed on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. I want to give people here an opportunity to join in on the live, join in on the stream, and also remember, you can't participate on the lives, you can't participate in the chat unless you are a subscriber to the channel. So if you haven't already, make sure to go out of your way, subscribe to the channel, join in on the conversation, and join in on the J Area as we talk about pro wrestling. One of the biggest takeaways from these last few episodes of Monday Night Raw have been Jey Uso. We talked about Jey Uso extensively on last week's live stream, but seeing the interaction with Jimmy Uso really solidifies what they're doing with the Jey Uso character here. It is a full character arc when it comes to Jey Uso. We can remember a time where it was him and his brother Jimmy, and these two were amongst one of the best tag teams on the roster, now amongst one of the best tag teams in the history of the game. And we couldn't really identify which was Jay and which was Jimmy. Fast forward to the pandemic era, Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso, is the right-hand man to Roman Reigns, and he starts learning the trade, learning what it takes to be a leader, learning what it takes to be a main eventer from Roman Reigns. We saw the level of verbal and emotional abuse that Jey Uso had suffered of being the right-hand man of Roman Reigns. We saw a lot of traits in a heel Roman Reigns that got himself over as the tribal chief, but over the course of time, Jey Uso grew in resentment, grew in his hatred for Roman Reigns. I mean, it was always there since the beginning, but then moving forward, coming out of the Bloodline saga and seeing Jey break away and become his own man, he became a man eventer, just like he set out to be, winning the Royal Rumble earlier this year, winning the World Championship. You guys know the story. But we fast forward to tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw, where LA Knight, and Jey Uso clearly have beef. They clearly have an issue with one another. They open up the episode of Monday Night Raw battling in the back, and Jimmy caught in the middle of it all because he's cool with LA. Got no beef with him. But then he's obviously with his brother, Jey Uso. They're twins. They got that bond. So LA Knight is in need of a partner. He wants to face off against Bronson Reed. He wants Braun Breaker, but Adam Pearce says you need a tag team partner. LA Knight, of course, trying to get under the skin of Jey Uso. So you know what? I picked Jimmy Uso as a big, middle finger to Jey, having his brother team up with LA Knight. But LA Knight confronts Jimmy, says, hey, I want to be your tag team partner. I need help against Braun Breaker, against Bronson Reed. But Jimmy Uso already seems a little bit conflicted. He doesn't feel like this is right. It's a conflict of interest. He doesn't want to get in the middle of whatever's going on between LA Knight and Jey Uso. So he tells him, no, I can't be your partner. And LA Knight takes it like a champ. Okay. You want no problem? Fine. I guess I got to go find someone else. In the midst of it all, Jey Uso has a conversation with his brother Jimmy, talking about, hey, LA Knight's looking for a tag team partner. He's going to ask you. Not already realizing that the conversation has already been had, and he's telling Jimmy, you need to say no. You can't do it. This has to stay in the family. You're my brother. You're my tag team partner. You can't be over there with LA Knight, ordering him as to what he can and can't do, as if he's not already a grown man, let alone his older brother. And Jimmy takes a little bit of umbrage with that. Looks at Jey Uso like, who are you giving me orders? Who are you to be telling me what I can and can't do? He's already told LA Knight no, because he's going to stick with the family. He's going to stick with his brother. He's going to team up with Jey Uso, and they have a priority at WrestlePalooza. But who are you to be telling me what to do? You don't got no Ula follow around your neck. And immediately Jey Uso realizes, he's come to the realization, he acknowledges that, hey, you might be right. There's a little bit of a Roman Reigns coming out of Jey Uso here every now and then, especially in these last few episodes of Raw. He doesn't want to become like Roman, but by association, maybe even by, subconsciously, he's starting to pick up on those little qualities of a Roman Reigns. Jimmy obviously upset that his brother's talking to him like that, and he says, you know what? I'm going to go team up with LA Knight anyway. So he teams up with LA Knight, and the main event, it is done. Jimmy Uso, LA Knight versus the Visions, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Again, a typical matchup here for Monday Night Raw. If you've watched these live streams, you already know my feelings about it. It's become very repetitive with the main event scene, with the revolving door of Reed, Breaker, Uso, and LA Knight. Interference, a lot of chaos. It's become very, rinse and repeat when it comes to it. The heels obviously get the win. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed get the win, gaining a little bit of momentum heading into the WrestlePalooza matchup against the Usos. I think that's by design for sure. We saw LA Knight, get a little bit of revenge on Jey Uso. He has the steel chair. He kind of motions to the fact that he's going to whack him with the steel chair, but ultimately doesn't do it. Shakes Jay's hand, and it's kind of this whole, like, hey, we're even type of deal. And Jay turns around to help his brother up, and that's when LA Knight lays him out with the BFT. And, I mean, what were you expecting? He got his receipt. You could say they're even now. I don't think they're even now. I think we're going to get another matchup here between LA Knight and Jey Uso. But the fact that remains is this upcoming Saturday. Usos versus the Visions, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. I'd love to give you my prediction for that matchup, but we're going to save that for later in the week. Let it marinate, let it sit, let it cook, if you will. And we'll talk about the predictions later on in the week. If you're just joining us here, I want to appreciate you guys. Take the time to thank you for joining us on another live edition of the J Area Wrestling Show. Again, a little bit of a late start to it. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we figured it out. We're all straight now, and we're on the straight and narrow. And we're here talking about pro wrestling. I do also want to do a quick plug here for the other social media outlets. If you're not following us on Twitter, on X, Instagram, TikTok, please go out every way and do so. You get up-to-date information regarding the channel, as well as my thoughts on the current product. With Instagram and TikTok, it's become the destination for those clips, those reels, those TikToks, those shorts. For those who haven't seen the long-form videos or the long streams, live streams, that's your opportunity to help catch up there. As for Twitter, I'm becoming a little bit more active there, trying to give my own opinion on the shows as they're going on live. While I'm watching Raw, what are my thoughts? What are my opinions on some of the ongoing storylines, the memes, the news? There's a lot going on in wrestling. There's a lot to be consumed. So if you haven't already, go out of your way. Follow us on all social media accounts. That's X, Instagram, and TikTok at JAreaPod_. Once again, that's at JAreaPod_. You can see that in the top corner there. Go out of your way and check it out. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay up to date with all things pro wrestling here on YouTube, as well as being a part of the live stream and being a part of the chat. You can't ask questions, you can't comment if you're not subscribed, so please go out of your way and do that and be a part of the J Area. We talked about news. A little bit of breaking news. Over the weekend, it was found out that Andrade is now gone from the WWE. Andrade, who had a good stint in NXT, even won the NXT championship there for a while, made it to the main roster and was caught in the mid-card for a lot, of his time there. He would have titles for the U.S. Championship. He'd have matches against Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black. Not a lot of memorable stuff, I will say, from that first main roster run. So when it came to All Elite Wrestling, and they became a force to be reckoned with in the early years of their existence, Andrade would leave the WWE and then sign with AEW. And again, had solid outings, had good matches, but there wasn't really anything of substance when it came to his creative direction. So Andrade, having interactions with Cody Rhodes, Matt Hardy, amongst others in AEW, we saw the writing on the wall, that his time there was limited. And it wasn't until the Royal Rumble event in 2024 that he made his long-awaited return to the WWE in the form of a surprise entrant in that year's Royal Rumble match. Since then, he would be best remembered for his partnership with obviously Rey Fenix, which I thought was a real good tag team. I enjoyed that. But I think the Best of 7 series with Carmelo Hayes is going to be the defining moment for Andrade. I think, if anything, when you look at Andrade's second stint with the main roster in the WWE, I feel like the best way that we can remember it is the Best of 7 series. It is the perfect just summary of his time there. An uber talented individual in Andrade having great matches against Carmelo Hayes, and just when you thought that there was going to be a payoff, you thought there was going to be something at the end of the rainbow for these two battling for the U.S. Championship contendership.
How you doing? How you doing?
How you doing? At the end of it, in the Best of 7 series, it ends in a draw because LA Knight interferes, and neither individual ends up winning the U.S. Championship. Rather, it's Shinsuke Nakamura, who did absolutely nothing with the title. It was a missed opportunity for someone like Andrade with all the talent in the world, has the charisma, could have been a main eventer, in my opinion. They didn't do anything with Andrade. I don't know what was the issue. Some people are saying it's behavioral, that there was a little bit of a disciplinary action by the WWE in this last couple of weeks. I feel like in the next coming days, weeks even, we'll be getting more information as to what had transpired there. But Andrade, a missed opportunity there here in the WWE. Again, didn't really have that much of a run, with the exception of the Best of 7 series, as well as the tag team with Rey Fenix. I really enjoyed that. And the fact that they didn't really capitalize on it, I think that's a missed opportunity in itself. But hopefully, wherever Andrade goes, he will find his success, because these last few runs, he has the talent, but hasn't really had anything substantial, nothing memorable to show for it. So we wish Andrade the very best. Look forward to where he ends up next. Sir Robert in the chat, Robert says, TKO took WrestleMania away from New Orleans, my home. Now they're taking WrestleMania to Saudi. Jose, I love you, brother, but this is it for me. I'm done with wrestling. See you down the road somewhere. Oh, come on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Having them take away WrestleMania from New Orleans, that does suck. New Orleans, I think, is a great town to have a spectacle like WrestleMania. Look at what happened in 2014 and 2018. I will say, though, having them do it for the third time in a little bit over a decade, I think it might have been a little excessive. I kind of like to spread it out a little bit. Maybe have one in Arizona, just saying. But if it's going to be done in another city, over and over again, New Orleans is not a bad option. There's a great city, there's a great flair, there's great energy there. The first 2 WrestleManias that were held in New Orleans, I thought were successful. So to see them take it away because of reportedly a better offer made by Vegas, that to me is the writing on the wall. That the WWE right now, under TKO, is heavily influenced by money, by corporate greed. It's all about business. It's all about selling tickets. It's all about earning more revenue. And I get it. It's a business at the end of the day. But it's just become so abhorrently apparent with the way it is being done. TKO has literally made it a machine. We know the WWE has been referred to as the machine for a long time, but they have literally made it a machine now as the way they've been approaching the business. And then, as to reference Robert's comment here about the WrestleMania 43, which will have, which will be in Saudi Arabia. It's something that we knew was going to happen eventually. There was a lot of talks of a potential WrestleMania happening in Saudi Arabia as like the greatest WrestleMania. Remember way back when in 2018, where we had the traditional Royal Rumble event, and then in the summer it felt like there was the greatest Royal Rumble, which was basically a spin-off of the Royal Rumble. My biggest complaint was if we were going to do a regular WrestleMania in the spring and then follow it up with the greatest WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, it devalues WrestleMania. It doesn't feel as special to me. So the next best thing was to have WrestleMania take place in Saudi Arabia. Now, I will not take anything away from the fans in Saudi Arabia. They have gotten better in terms of the crowd participation. What I will take away from the WWE here is, one, if this were to be the first ever WrestleMania emanating outside of North America, meaning both US and Canada, I really thought London or even Paris, France, it could have been Lyon, it could have been Paris, France, one of those two should have been the place to get it, just based off of what they've been able to do these last few years. I would have loved to have seen France get a WrestleMania because of the way these last few shows, Raw, the Clash in Paris, SmackDown, the Backlash from 2024, all great crowds, all great moments. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have preferred that. Instead, we're going to Saudi Arabia. Why? Because of the almighty dollar. And what's really frustrating about it, the most frustrating thing about it, is they're going to sell tickets for thousands upon thousands of dollars. And the average fan, the diehard fan like you and I, who keep up to date with the weekly shows, we watch Monday Night Raw, we watch NXT, we watch SmackDown, we watch the PLEs, we keep up with the news. And we, at least I'll speak for myself, we can't even attend these shows because of how ridiculously high these tickets are. You want to go to a Monday Night Raw, front row is like $8,000. I am not paying $8,000 for floor seats to a Monday Night Raw. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. And so now in Saudi Arabia, they're going to be selling thousands upon thousands of dollars to people who sometimes I think they're plants. Like they're out who are getting people to attend the shows who aren't fans, like celebrities. When I see a bunch of celebrities there, I question, are they real fans, or are they just invited by the WWE to show off, hey, look who's at the show? Because the real fans like you and I, all around the world, who watch these shows, can't even attend them. I sincerely hope that WrestleMania 43 is a great show. I'll continue to watch it. One, because it's a passion of mine. Very passionate about this. Two, because it's become a hobby. It's become almost a second job for me to do this. So I will continue to watch this show. Just like I did during the PG era when it was really bad. Of course, I watched in and out. But I really hope WrestleMania 43 is a good show. Because if it's not, it's going to look really bad in terms of public perception for the WWE. There's already being reports being revealed that they're already making preparations to offer people like The Rock, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, John Cena, etc. to either make appearances or wrestle. That defeats the purpose of it, I think. Pro wrestling is intended to keep moving forward. Yes, it's nice to see a bit of the legends every now and then, to celebrate the past, to remember where we were as to how we got here. We cannot truly embrace the future without honoring the past. The only issue is, how are we supposed to embrace the future when we're consistently pushing talent that is way past their prime? The shows nowadays should be headlined by the current crop of stars. Cody, Drew, Roman, even elevate some of the young boys, Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Penta. But they're always going to be stuck down the card if you rely on The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Stone Cold, The Rock. The only individual that would make sense to be a part of the show is The Rock, because of the Bloodline saga, because we need the payoff to either him versus Cody or versus Roman Reigns. That is the only one I will accept John Cena is retiring in December. The Undertaker should remain retired. Shawn Michaels should remain retired. They should not be coming out of retirement for this. And that's what I fear for WrestleMania 43, is that it will become the most greediest event the WWE has produced ever since the Crown Jewel and Super Showdowns of like back then. But that's in 2 years. A year and a half, really. Maybe even less. I really hope it's a good show. Because the trajectory that we're on, I don't know. San Francisco, Robert, I've been watching AEW more frequently for a bit, and it's pretty good, to be honest. And again, that's another thing, too, with pro wrestling. If you're not a fan of one, check out AEW. Check out TNA. I'm trying to keep up to date with everything at this point. I like to make sure I have a little bit of knowledge of everyone. AEW, TNA, AAA, WWE, CMLL. Reese says, what's up, Jose? What's going on, buddy? How you doing? Glad you could join us on the stream. A little bit of a late start for the stream, but nonetheless, we're here talking pro wrestling. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Who wants Randy or Drew versus Brock? You know, with Brock, I honestly didn't want him to come back. I didn't. Of those matches, though, I've already seen Drew versus Brock. I've seen Randy versus Brock. I really want to see Gunther or Braun Breaker versus Brock. Those are the only two matches that really excite me for Brock Lesnar. I think Cena can compete with him. Well, Cena versus Larry Wheels, who is better? Cena. Robert says, it's a paid show. Yeah, of course. It's all corporate money. I'm with you there, Robert. Ryan Armstrong says, Cena, Goldberg, Sting, HBK, Taker, Kane, Ric Flair will all come out of retirement for WrestleMania 43. I know you're slightly joking. However, I think there's a good shot that half of those names might be at the show. And I really hope they're not, Ryan. I really hope they're not. I got a level of love for all of them because of me growing up and becoming a fan and recognizing game. But no. God, no, please. Robert says, lastly, if Tony Khan wasn't a cokehead mark, his words, not mine, he could provide a product that would compete. He's on the way. I mean, yeah, I know AEW's been a thing for, 6 years now. But I feel like in the last year, Tony Khan has made strides. He's made some improvements there. So, Reese says, if the Saudis want Rock versus Roman 43, they're going to get... Yeah, no, and that's the thing, though. That's the only one that makes sense to me. The Rock is the only legend I think that makes sense. Him versus Roman. Did Vince push bodybuilders? I don't know, not necessarily bodybuilders, but he certainly had a type. He wanted these wrestlers that were larger than life. That's why you saw guys like Hulk Hogan. That's why you saw guys like John Cena and Brock Lesnar. I love John Cena, but he's a body guy. You know what I mean? He's pretty built. So, do you watch Evolve on Tubi? Ryan, I did. I kept up with it for a few weeks, but it got to the point where there was just an overload of consumption, and so some things have to get cut. And Evolve, I don't use Tubi at all. It was only for Evolve, and I watched it for about a month or two, and it couldn't stick for me. It couldn't stick. And plus, these guys and girls are gonna end up on NXT, so I tried, but I couldn't. If Braun still competed in Strongman, where is Braun Strowman anyway? Since he left the WWE or got released, I haven't heard too much about him. But I'm telling you, man, with WrestleMania 43, I know again it's still over a year's away, but just the trajectory the WWE's been on, especially with TKO, to me, it's the president of TKO really put it in perspective with that last, comment he had made about Vince, saying that Vince was targeting ticket sales to families and he didn't maximize his profit like they're doing now. And to me, that was the biggest tell. Vince was trying to get in as many people as he could in the arenas, namely families. Because Vince understood, if you bring the kids are going to want to buy the merchandise. They're going to make their parents spend the extra dollar on the t-shirts, on the action figures, on the titles. And right now, TKO, they don't care. They don't care. They'd rather sell thousands of dollars because they know there's going to be those people who are going to buy them no matter what. And maybe we are part of the problem as fans because we're feeding into it. But it's just the ticket sales are ridiculous, man. $8,000 for floor seats to a Monday Night Raw. That's... no. Hell no. And if people want to know, how'd you get that number? I looked at it. Monday Night Raw comes to, our town in December. And I was curious. And to see that as a floor seat was jaw-dropping, truly. For a Monday Night Raw. I don't even think I would spend $8,000 for like a B-level PLE. Let alone can't. Let alone I can't. $8,000 on a PLE? Or not even on a Raw floor seat? No. No. If you're able to do that, shout out to you. If you're able to do that, not me. I'm totally fine being from the comfort of my home, watching the show, with my snacks and being able to use the restroom at my leisure, instead of having to get up and go across the arena to find the nearest one. But no. WrestlePalooza, though, this upcoming weekend, we will be going live again on Thursday. I'll be sharing my predictions for AEW's All Out event as well as WWE's WrestlePalooza event. Both on Saturday, but on Thursday. Thursday, people. Thursdays. The next time we go live, I'll share my in-depth analysis and predictions for every matchup that's on the card currently, as well as on Saturday. Following the PLEs, we will be going live. So that's 2 lives. One on Thursday, one on Saturday. Trying to keep the conversation going. Trying to keep the good times flowing here on YouTube. We have just hit the 8.8 thousand mark here on YouTube. So again, if you want to maintain a voice here on the channel, make sure you subscribe. Check out the channel. Check out the content. Be a member of the Main Event Mafia. We did have a little bit of difficulties on the last streams as to why certain people's names weren't highlighted or the championships weren't being displayed. Not sure what happened. There was a little bit of a glitch, but I checked now. If you were a member of the Main Event Mafia, it should be all good to go. Your name should be already highlighted. The titles do not change. It picks back up where it was. Again, not sure what happened there, but everything should be regulated back to that. Also, I want to also plug the X, Instagram, and TikTok accounts at jareapod_. That's at jareapod_. If you want to have more access to the wrestling mind that I have, you can join us on all of those accounts and get more content that you wouldn't find here on YouTube. Ryan in the chat says Cena's final match at MSG cost about $3,000 for floor seats, $300 for nosebleed seats. That's ridiculous. So, yes, I agree. It is ridiculous. But when it comes to John Cena's last match, I understand. I get it. It's Cena's last match. Madison Square Garden, as you said. So to me, it's like, okay, I understand why it's that priced. I don't agree with it. I think it's egregious for the average consumer. But when you say it's Cena's last match, I get it. I understand. But these tickets are ridiculous. You have to sell an arm and a leg just to walk into the door. Now imagine having to buy the merch, let alone purchase some food and snacks during the day. Man, I got to put overtime on top of overtime to just walk into the building. That's why if it ever happens, if WrestleMania ever comes back to our neck of the woods here in Arizona, I got to start saving up like yesterday. I got to start saving up because I can only imagine the prices it's going to be in the next few years. That's even if they come here. What if they just go to Saudi Arabia every year? And I also want to point out and make it known, I don't have any issue with Saudi Arabia, the fans, or I don't want to make it a personal thing. It's not. To me, it's just the professionalism, the direction of the business side of the company, that we're prioritizing money over the fans, over the moments. That's not the wrestling I grew up on. It's really become a machine at this point, and not even in the positive sense of like a well-oiled machine. But go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments in the chat below as well. We did have a little bit of a late start to the stream, so rather than wrapping up at the end of the hour, we'll move further into it just to make up for lost time. There was a little bit of technical difficulties heading up on the live today. Tried something new and ultimately it didn't work out, but hey, we're here. A little bit delayed, but we're here. We're here on YouTube. Following Monday Night Raw. Another thing that had transpired on Monday Night Raw that really got my attention, of course, was the mixed tag team segment with Punk, AJ Lee, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch. To me, it's the most anticipated matchup for WrestlePalooza. It's the matchup that I'm looking most forward to. And another stellar segment between all four individuals at the top of their game, easing AJ Lee back into the physical aspect of wrestling here. I think it's an early contender for the promo of the week, the gift of gab of the week, which if you've been keeping up with the gift of gab, you know it's been pretty centered around this storyline. I would not be surprised if this ended up being the promo of the week for me again this upcoming weekend. But AJ Lee, CM Punk in the ring with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, I thought was great. I really appreciated the gear, the matching outfits. You saw Becky and Seth in like the matching black leather. We had Punk and AJ in the jeans and the AJ Lee t-shirt, which we will get to here in a moment. But just a stellar show between all four. Really get you invested in what's going on, giving us reason to care for everything that is transpiring. AJ Lee takes a hell of a manhandle slam by Becky Lynch, her first official bump since coming back, and I'm gonna tell you right now, she sold it like $1,000,000. And knowing what we know about her neck issues, it was really uncomfortable to watch a little bit, But I think it's a telltale as to who will go over at WrestlePalooza. A little bit of a spoiler for my predictions, but hey, you want more of an in-depth look into what I'm thinking about for this matchup? Join us on Thursdays live. For a full predictions stream for AEW All Out and WWE WrestlePalooza. I talked about t-shirts. Anyone check out Bayley's t-shirt? Bayley making a huge return to make the save for Lyra Valkyria, who was getting beat down by the Judgment Day. And out comes Bayley wearing the AJ Lee t-shirt, which I thought was a great callback. If you saw already on our Instagram and on our community tab here on YouTube, I posted a picture of Bayley in the t-shirt and also AJ Lee in Bayley's t-shirt. You see, way back when, it was 2015, the night after WrestleMania 31. I believe it was March 30th, 2015. AJ Lee comes out for her last matchup that we didn't know. We didn't know it was going to be her last matchup in 10 years. But she comes out wearing the classic purple I'm a Hugger t-shirt that was Bayley's back in her time in NXT, as a way to put over Bayley and recognize that, hey, she's next up. And then 10 years later, AJ Lee makes her long awaited return. Bayley, who was on the shelf, if you will, dealing with her own issues, but AJ Lee's last appearance in the WWE was wearing a Bayley t-shirt, and now Bayley's first appearance since AJ's return was with an AJ t-shirt. It's poetry. Everything comes back around. I loved it. It was a subtle nod there to those who knew. For some people out there, the younger fans who maybe didn't know of the 2015 t-shirt issue, or just weren't aware of what was going on there, it's a nice little treat to go back and check it out. And for people like us who were there 10 years ago and watched it, kind of a nice little payoff. And again, rewarding the fans who keep up with that kind of stuff, those little details. I'm a fan of that. But the Bayley stuff, I will say, I'm a huge fan of. The whole split personality, 3 faces of Foley type of thing they got going on with Bayley right now is very intriguing. It's something different. We've seen the vignettes, we've seen the backstage segments of her having this internal conflict with the two sides of her persona. Obviously, NXT's hugger gimmick, and then the ding dong, remember the Karen haircut for Bayley during the Thunderdome era, which I thought was one of the MVPs of the Thunderdome era, but really a big fan of that. We saw Bayley make the save and just start hugging everybody at ringside. People like Joe Tess, Alicia Taylor, Corey Graves, some of the fans got a little bit of hugging there as well. And it became a little bit alarming, like what's going on with Bayley? Is she okay? Is she having a crisis? What's going on? And then Lyra left puzzled, confused, and of course later in the show she would go and knock on the door of Bayley's locker room. But before she knocked on the door, we heard a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling from the locker room, and it was from Bayley, essentially talking to herself and coming to grips with reality. And Lyra realizing like, hey, Bayley's not doing too well in the mental department there. And she tries to apologize to Bayley for what she had said a couple weeks ago and coming at her so strongly. Bayley returns the favor and begins yelling at Lyra, calling her an idiot, berating her for the way that she spoke to her the last time they've seen. But it wasn't the hugger Bayley, and it wasn't even current era Bayley. It sounded a lot like the ding dong, heel Bayley that we saw a few years ago. I don't know what the payoff is, but I'm really excited to see where they go with it. Hopefully something good. I'm holding out for something positive here. But the Bayley stuff I think is tremendous. Big fan of that. Another thing that I really enjoyed, El Grande Americano, in his partnership with Dirty Dominic Mysterio, the Mega Intercontinental Champion as he called himself because he's the current reigning and defending Intercontinental and AAA Mega Champion. I find that stuff to be very entertaining. I'm very interested, of course, as to where they're going with the El Grande Americano minions, the two masked wrestlers who presumably are Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. Where are they going with this? Is he going to create his own group? What's the long-term game here? Are they going to be a threesome and feud with American Made, Chad Gable and the Creed brothers? Maybe. I think it's a possibility for sure, but at this point in time, I don't know where they're going with it. And as for Dominic and the Judgment Day, there's been cracks developing for so long. For so long. We've been thinking the Judgment Day is going to break up. But rather than break up, I think we're going to see the Judgment Day betray Dom and kick him out of the group because he's been developing a little bit of an ego, a lot of confidence, or cockiness, depending on who you ask. And on top of that, keeping them in the dark when it comes to the partnership with El Grande Americano. Finn issued the challenge to Dominic, win the Mega Championship on your own. And he didn't do that. He had the help of El Grande Americano. So there's already some developing tension between Finn Balor and Dominic. Where they go with that, I don't know. The only thing we can surmise is that they will turn on Dominic. And are we in for a Dominic babyface turn? I don't know. Because I don't think you could turn the whole Judgment Day babyface. I don't think you can. And if they do turn Dom into a babyface, is it going to work? Maybe he'll be a tweener. Like an anti-hero type of a thing. But I don't know. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. How would you feel about a Dominic babyface turn? Or do you think the Judgment Day is going to be the babyface and Dom's going to stay heel? It could go either way. Muhammad's in the chat. What's going on, Muhammad? Hope you're doing well. Glad to see you here on a Monday following Monday Night Raw. Says, I hope you're doing well. Same with everyone here. I am doing well. I appreciate it. We didn't go live on Thursday for personal reasons. I appreciate you guys understanding and allowing me to come back here on a Monday, talking Monday Night Raw. Again, for those of you just joining us, we will go live again on Thursday. On Thursday, we'll go live for our predictions stream to hype up WrestlePalooza and All Out. And then on Saturday evening, we'll be going live. It might be a late live on Saturday because I'm going to try to watch both shows. It's a tall task, but I'm up for it. Muhammad says, "What do you think of Raw tonight?" I was okay with it. I really liked the Punk and AJ segment. Um, Penta like that. Bailey, Cena, those segments I thought were good. The Vision and the Usos and LA Knight stuff, it's not bad. It just gets really repetitive for me. But overall, a decent Raw. No Jackie Redmond or Kathy Kelly earlier tonight. I honestly didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize that neither of them were on the show. And quick question, shoot. There's no need to ask quick question. Just shoot the question, man. Go for it. We always try to get to every question here on the stream, and I welcome them. Like I've said before, this is as much your stream as it is mine. It's an opportunity to open the floor for discussion and have just a talk about pro wrestling, man. Typically, on these lives, we go until the end of the hour, but because it was a little bit of a late start, technical difficulties on my part, I will accept the blame. I will take the heat for the slow start. We're going to go ahead and go on a little bit longer than usual here. Muhammad says, "Rip Ricky Hatton." Ricky Hatton, who a very well-known boxer, passed away over the weekend at a young age. You know, he was like, was it 47? I don't know why I thought he was older, but Ricky Hatton unfortunately passed away this weekend. AEW Collision, and on Saturday it didn't show twice. I'm struggling to understand what you mean by that, Muhammad. At least for me, I saw Collision on Saturday. It aired at its regular time. For me, at least. It was main evented, of course, by Danny Garcia and Moxley, which is something that I didn't get to talk about, too. Danny Garcia seemingly, not even seemingly, he turned heel. And looks like he's joining the Death Riders, which I certainly thought was a choice. I'm a fan of Daniel Garcia, and I didn't want to see him turn heel. I didn't want to see him join the Death Riders. He's so much better on his own. He was developing a lot of steam, a lot of momentum as a single star, especially in the TNT title picture. But since then, I really feel like AEW and Tony Khan let him cool off there for a bit, and there wasn't really a set of direction for him. And now he turns to a heel, which is okay, I guess, because I think he's a solid heel. But it's just, why would you turn him heel when he was already developing a good rapport, a good relationship? He was getting over with the crowd. I don't know what the point is of that. But again, me as a pro wrestling fan, I'm not booking the show. I'm a fan. So I'm going to hear them out and see how it goes. And then wherever we get to this storyline, then I can make judgment. But I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit disappointed that they turn Danny Garcia heel and have him join Jon Moxley. I just don't understand it. Muhammad says, I mean, it didn't record twice on TNT West that I meant. Oh, well, I'm not sure. That I cannot help you with, my friend. I watch it live on HBO Max, or I try to catch it on the replay on YouTube TV. So it worked well for me. I'm sorry it didn't work well for you. Hopefully you're still able to catch it. Again, if you have HBO Max, you do have that option to watch it live, or of course rewatch the airing of the show. YouTube, of course, is our best friend, and you can find the highlights, I'm sure. But Collision is it's hit or miss with Collision. I keep up with more of Dynamite. Collision, I feel like if you miss an episode, it doesn't really change a lot of what's going on in the show. But hopefully, again, you're able to catch up with it. But that's another thing, too, when it comes to the pro wrestling, man. There's wrestling every day of the week, and I try to keep up to date with all of it. That way, in case you guys missed it, hey, maybe I can help up and catch you up to speed. Traditionally, We do go live here on YouTube, but I am interested in the idea of also going live on TikTok. So if you want to join in the conversation on TikTok, where we'll be doing more lives throughout the day, really, the YouTube streams I think are primarily reserved for like these late night conversations. I mean, depending on where you are in the time zone. For me on the West Coast, this is our late night discussion, a little bit of a nightcap for us. But I kind of want to experiment more with the TikTok lives, and that might be like a midday type of deal. So I encourage you guys, if you want to have more in-depth conversations about pro wrestling, join us on TikTok at jareapod_. You can also join us at Instagram and on X at jareapod_ for other content as well. It would mean a great deal to help grow this channel, and I feel like being able to branch out to other social media sites like Instagram, like TikTok, like X, that'll only boast well for the chances of this channel to continuing to grow. We are on the heels of 9,000 subs. Of course, you guys already know the goal of 10,000 by the end of 2025 is still well in reach. I think it's something very possible for us to achieve, but I can only do it with your help. So we're almost there at 10,000. I want to have something special planned for that milestone of 10,000 subs, because it seems like only yesterday that I opened up the channel and started talking about pro wrestling, and just seeing the consistent build, the consistent wave of momentum that has came our way. It has become such a wild ride, and I'm very appreciative for you all. So hopefully you guys will help us out there in growing the J area to 10,000 subs, as well as helping the other social media sites. I always keep the handles on screen, not this side, at jareapod_. Muhammad asks, any chance of Jake Hager coming back to the WWE despite him having bad terms with the company? You never say never, right? There have been people out there who have had really bad relations with the company. CM Punk, obviously Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart, just to name a few. These are people that no one thought was going to come back, and they did. Now, to say that Jake Hager is on the same level of these guys is... Shout out to Gianna Forever there for the super chat. Thank you so much, Gianna Forever. Again, one of our diehard supporters here on the channel. It would not be possible without people like Gianna Forever continuing to support this venture. All love, all appreciation. Can't thank you enough, my friend. I was talking about Jake Hager before I got wonderfully surprised by Gianna Forever. To put him in the same conversation as Punk and Bret Hart and Ultimate Warrior is preposterous, right? Is there a possibility he could return? Sure. Absolutely. Crazier things have happened in pro wrestling, but I just don't think that's something that they would go for. I don't think there's a lot of people out there, with all due respect, that are asking for, ooh, I want to see Jake Hager back in WWE. With all due respect, I'm not one of them. When he had made his debut on Dynamite, the first episode of Dynamite back in 2019, I was kind of like, oh, it's Jake Hager, cool. I was kind of hoping for someone bigger. No matter how much I say with all due respect, it still sounds very disrespectful, but I'm not. I'm not one of them clamoring for a return of Jack Swagger. Again, is there a chance? Sure. You never say never. But I would find it very, very unlikely. What's up, Johnny? How you doing, my friend? Muhammad says he was asked about the Royal Rumble appearances, but he shut it down. I just don't think it would happen. I don't. If it did, cool. As a one-off, maybe. As a one-off. But in terms of like an extensive run, no. No, sir. I think he honestly would have better luck in TNA. And TNA is unofficially owned by the WWE. They're not owned by them, but they're certainly ran by them, essentially. I think that would be his best shot, is with TNA. Bloodsport, GCW, MLW, I could see those being a possibility as well. You'll have to forgive me. I'm checking the Monday Night Football scores Big fan of football. Also, I know this is still pro wrestling, but I do want to give a quick shout out to San Francisco. The 49ers got a win this last weekend against the New Orleans Saints. We're 2-0. Road Warriors. We won back-to-back road wins. Have to give a quick shout out to my team there. San Francisco, 2-0. We got the Arizona Cardinals next up for the number one spot in the NFC West. I have all the faith in the world in my team, so we'll see how that goes. That's my little spiel about football, about San Francisco, the 49ers. Back here on Wrestle Talk with you guys. Hey, Wrestle Talk, isn't that really owned by somebody else? But again, we're going to go live again on Thursday. Want to experiment a little bit with the TikTok lives, so if you're interested in those lives as well, join us at @JAreaPod_ as well as on Instagram and TikTok and on Twitter. Muhammad asks, what is your overall thoughts on Andrade getting released and fired again? And Jake Hager claims Tony Khan goes to Jericho for weeks. Tony Khan, I can't speak to it, obviously, because I don't know the guy. But based off what we know from the wrestlers and what they say about him, shady. But the thing with Tony Khan is he strikes me as the kind of guy who wants to be friends with his top talent and still be the boss. You can't. You cannot be the boss and be people's friends. You can only be one or the other. You cannot be one of the boys and still be the boss. You have to be one of the others. For all the crap they gave Vince, he understood that he was the boss at the end of the day. There was a level of respect and maybe a little bit of intimidation, when dealing with Vince. I don't know if anyone's intimidated by Tony Khan. Certainly not upon first glance. But him ghosting, Chris Jericho, come on. Unprofessional. I understand he might have other things on his plate, but when you have someone like Chris Jericho, who's one of your first big-time signings with the company and a legend in the business regardless, you got to do better. You got to do better. As for Andrade, I did share some of my thoughts earlier in the stream, so if you missed those parts, make sure you check out the earlier aspects of the stream. The archives will have it available, as you can go back and watch the replay. But I do want to put a little bit of bow on the Andrade conversation. I really enjoyed his stuff with Carmelo Hayes. The Best of 7 series, I think, is the perfect summary of his time here in the WWE this time around. Great set of matches, a great talent, great athleticism, a great wrestler, essentially. But the finish of that Best of 7 series, where it was inconclusive and we had LA Knight disrupt it and cause essentially a draw, that's basically what it was for Andrade. His run in the WWE, a lot of hype, a lot of good matches, but ultimately a squandered finish. And we could not follow up on it. We could not provide a proper, finishing touch to Andrade. It's a shame. I also think that his partnership with Rey Fenix, really entertaining. They meshed really well together. It was a perfect scenario for Rey Fenix to have a tag team partner that wasn't his brother Penta, and they squandered that as well. I don't know what really happened. I don't think we'll ever know until it comes out to the public what really transpired between Andrade and the higher ups. We can only wish him the best, and hopefully he does well wherever he goes because he is a great talent. I just find it a little bit alarming that someone as talented as Andrade cannot have a lengthy, successful run with a major promotion, with whether it's WWE or AEW or WWE again. He hasn't had a lengthy, successful run at the main event scene. So I'm curious to see where he goes next. Johnny says, how do you like Dominic Mysterio's double champ? I love it, Johnny. I appreciate the question here. I love it. Dominic winning the AAA Mega Championship was the right move. Him as the Mega Champion and the Intercontinental Champion. I love it. Big fan of Dominic. He has slowly become one of my favorite wrestlers on the roster. Not just because of his last name, but because of just his personality. He plays the character real well. I think in ring-wise, he has certainly improved since we saw him debut in 2020. You can argue 2005. But since his in-ring debut, he has grown so much. And I love it. I think, surely, Dominic's winning a world championship at some point in his career. Not just AAA. I'm talking in the WWE. He will win a world championship. Book it. Johnny asks, what do you like about Brock Lesnar's coming back and his return to WWE? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a big Brock guy. I will say that there was a time being where he had great matches, but I just feel like he's accomplished everything. The only match I would like to see from Brock is him versus Gunther or him versus Braun Breaker. Aside from that, though, Brock Lesnar coming back didn't really do a lot for me. Tyler's in the chat, says, "Yo, I love your pro wrestling news and everything." I appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you so much. Congratulations on being a member for 3 months here on the Main Event Mafia. Again, big appreciation. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. 3 months as a member of the Main Event Mafia. Make sure you guys join. If you're interested in the Main Event Mafia, you do get access to exclusive videos, polls, posts, as well as other exclusives on the channel. And it's a great way to help support here on YouTube. So, for those who are members, greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're a member, you do get a nice little championship title next to your name as a way to distinguish you, apart from the other members of the audience, demonstrating why you are a real one, why you are a member of the Main Event Mafia. Johnny says, "Wow, looks like we're going to see Brock versus Cena." Yeah, another Brock versus Cena matchup. We've seen that matchup a few times over the last decade. Again, if it wasn't Cena's retirement tour, I wouldn't be so excited about it just because I've seen it. But because it's John Cena's retirement tour, I am heavily rooting for Cena to beat Lesnar. Is he going to do it, though? Tune in for Thursday's stream for my full thoughts on that matchup. Tyler says, "Did you see Matt Riddle win his championship title last night?" I didn't watch it. I watched the highlights on Twitter, and I did catch that. Matt Riddle, who has had a little bit of heat on himself as of late, but nonetheless has won the championship. And thanks to guys like Tyler, keeping us all up to date with the MLW news. Johnny says, "Looks like I won't see Roman Reigns for a while." I'm thinking Roman is going to come back in time for the Survivor Series, like in a War Games matchup. I think Roman's probably coming back, maybe between now and between Crown Jewel. Maybe even at Crown Jewel. But I think Roman certainly will be back by the Survivor Series. I misspoke as well. I said that Riddle won the championship. I meant to say he lost his championship. Johnny says the Buffalo Bills are going to play the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night. Who's going to win? I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Those guys look like they're possessed to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I do think they'll be amongst the heavy contenders. Miami right now they're lost. The Dolphins look lost on offense, on defense. All the confidence in the world right now is with Josh Allen. That's why he's the MVP. I got the Buffalo Bills going over, certainly, in a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I do not think it's going to be a competitive game. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be a good game because I think Buffalo's just going to dismantle Miami. Love the football questions as well. I'm very hyped for football. Obviously, NFL is back. NBA is coming back in about a month. So if you have any questions about those, hey, shoot them my way as well. I'd love to answer everything and anything sports related, namely pro wrestling, basketball, and the NFL. Those are my sweet spots. Tyler says Tua is wasted. Tua Tagovailoa, man, ever since those concussions, he's not going to be in there for the long haul. How do you like AJ Lee back in the WWE? I love it, man. AJ Lee's my favorite wrestler. Women, my favorite female wrestler, I will say. Seeing her come back and being partnered up with CM Punk is like a dream of mine because as a teenager growing up, AJ, my favorite women's wrestler, Punk, my favorite male wrestler, and then finding out they were married, it's like, wow, that's awesome. My two favorites are actually a married couple, and now they're here, back in the WWE, competing in a matchup. Over the moon. I'm super excited for it. How do I like Kevin Durant on the Rockets? I don't, Johnny. Ever since Kevin Durant left the Warriors, he's been kind of been a journeyman, traveling to Brooklyn, traveling to Phoenix, and now Houston. It's great for Houston. I think they're going to be, a force to be reckoned with in the West. They looked good last year, and then you add someone like a Kevin Durant to that team, they're going to be a solid contender, I think. Me as a Warrior fan, not crazy about it, but me as a basketball fan, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Thank you for the questions, though, Johnny. Appreciate that. Make sure you guys drop in more questions and comments as we start to unwind here on the stream. We'll be going for maybe another 5 minutes here, allowing you guys an opportunity to voice your thoughts, ask your questions for another edition of the J Area Wrestling live show. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, keep up to date with all things pro wrestling. Take part in the conversation here on those live streams. You can only participate in the chat if you are subscribed. Also, if you like the video, subscribe, like, comment. You guys know the gimmicks. I don't got to explain it to you. You guys all are very intelligent people. And why do I say that? Because you're here hanging out with us. That's a smart thing to do. Make sure you follow us here as well on X, Instagram, and TikTok at JAreaPod_. Once again, for the people in the back, that's at JAreaPod_. It would mean a great deal if you would help us out grow on those social media sites and bring more people over here to YouTube in the J area as we continue to grow. Johnny says, how do you like your Niners? The $1 million question. The $1 million question. Johnny, listen. Trepidatious is the word. Very cautious. Kittle's hurt. Brock is hurt. Brandon Ayuk is hurt. Juszczyk just left the game. We're hurt, man. We're dealing with injuries. But the defense behind Robert Saleh has looked pretty damn good, right? Ricky Pearsall looks pretty damn good. Christian McCaffrey doing Christian McCaffrey things. Mac Jones, who I have my personal opinions about, balled out against New Orleans. Now, granted, it was New Orleans, but he still played pretty decently. The Niners are 2-0. Even though we're dealing with some injuries, I'm thinking during this stretch, as long as we can remain above 500, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I like what I see. There is room for growth, obviously. There is room for growth. But I'm cautiously optimistic about what I see with the Niners. For me, I'm not saying Super Bowl. I don't think it's out of the question, but it's certainly not the main priority for me as a fan. I would like to just get in the playoffs, whether it's a division win or as a wild card, get in the playoffs, and then we'll go from there. Cautiously optimistic. Tyler says, breaking news, GCW presents Keep in Touch 2025 is coming to Phoenix this Friday. Prices are good for the GCW event. That'd be cool. Support your indies, man. Support your local. I know GCW is not local to Arizona, but still, support your local indie promotions. Even though the WWE right now is pricing out fans, support these other promotions as well. What do you like about wrestling going on ESPN now? I mean, for me, nothing much has changed. You know, it's just a different streaming service and then a higher subscription price. I'm personally okay with it. I know that a lot of wrestling fans are like upset with it. But for me personally, I keep up with football. I keep up with basketball, boxing, baseball. So getting the ESPN app, it's not that big of a deal for me because I follow all these other sports. So it's kind of a good bang for my buck, at least. But if you're just a fan of pro wrestling, it is kind of excessive to be paying, $30 a month for that. But if you are a sports fan like myself, and you keep up with all the other leagues, it's not that bad. But that's just me. I don't know your situation. We're going to go ahead and start to wind down here on the stream. Again, man, I want to thank you guys for tuning in on another Monday stream talking about pro wrestling here on the J Area Wrestling Show. We will be going live again, like I said, Thursday evening, Thursday, 8 o'clock on the West Coast. We'll go live, share our predictions for WrestlePalooza, for AEW All Out, as well as discuss the ongoing headlines in pro wrestling. That's Thursday. And on Saturday night, we'll be going live following WrestlePalooza, talking about the headlines of that major event as well. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel so you too can be a part of the J Area's live streams, as well as follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok at the ever so popular name at JAreaPod _. Of course, I'm your humble host, Jose Ramos Jr., thanking you again to choosing to spend your time here hanging out with us here on YouTube. Hoping you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Hoping you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll be seeing you all Thursday for our next edition of the J Area Wrestling Show. Everyone be safe. Everyone take care. I will see you then.